I asked you guys what was the best two-handed melee weapon that wasn't made from boss parts, and you guys let me know for sure. 12,000 votes. Here is the definitive top 5 community voted best two-handed weapons in Grounded. Let's go. So at number 5, of course, it is the FireX Club with 4% of the vote. Now it is a brand new weapon, so I imagine that's why it's maybe not got as high a rating as some of the others, but you are absolutely missing out if you're not using this. It's got one of the biggest and best stun abilities out of any of the weapons, only matched by the Sour Battle Axe as well as the Club of the Mother Demon. Of course the club is relatively slow, just like its previous counterparts, and with overall damage it's maybe not the highest. Its unique perk is Critical Daze, which will mean enemies will attack much slower for a short duration. So particularly for maybe faster and bigger enemies, it could be really something useful to use, especially against either the ladybirds or roly-polies, to stop them doing either their charge or roll attacks. So maybe not great for handling a crowd, this weapon will really shine once you go and take it on some of the bigger creatures. Because it's made out of the fire and parts, you might think it might do spicy damage, but actually you can augment it with anything. So it's a good alternative to the mint mace, which obviously can only have fresh on it. You can actually apply anything you want on this and it comes a pretty good second best. And out of all of the late game weapons, it could potentially be one of the easiest to craft. Fire ants are no joke, but there's plenty of ways to find some of the lone normal ants running around the upper yard. And as you get closer to the fire ant hill, again you can find plenty of the soldiers just roaming around in the big trench. But given there are more powerful weapons like the Brood Club and like the Mint Mace that you'll probably even be able to get hold of maybe earlier, I can see why a lot of players haven't really thought about using this much. But a nice little upgrade from the original for sure. Number 4 and 3 was a split decision at 6% of the vote, but I'm going to put the Antlion Greatsword at number 4. It used to be the OG meta. Once this came out, it was powerful for months on end before finally getting a reduction and change and balance. Absolutely everyone was rocking some of these. Relatively easy to make once you've obviously gone and conquered the sandbox. It does high output of damage, moderate speed, obviously much quicker than a club, but really poor stun ability. It's got the same stats as Spicy Cortana, but obviously without the spicy damage. So never use this as a spicy weapon, you're better off getting the Spicy Cortana. And obviously you want to be using it against creatures weak to slash. Combine this with a light or medium armor to get the most out of the swings, and you definitely got something that can maybe take on crowds a bit better. Once you've actually cleared out the sandbox completely, you should have more than enough parts to really make a couple of these if you do want to experiment with different elements on it. So yeah, don't forget about this one, make sure you got plenty of the Antlion parts and craft a couple and see how you get on. Number 3 is the Sour Battle Axe. I admit I made a bit of a mistake maybe including this. I forgot you can't actually get it until you actually get through the boss fight. It's not a weapon that you can just craft, and obviously that recipe is really end game. So really it will be included more in the boss weapons. That said, I still think a lot of you guys really don't understand how powerful this weapon is, since it's still only number 3. This is better than a Spicy Cortana. Really? Yeah, maybe, just about. It is main use meant to be for taking on the orc creatures to help you do the final base defense, but it's an absolute beast of a weapon, with obviously the chopping damage, the fact that you can use it as a proper axe to go ahead and chop lots of grass. So there's not a lot of creatures actually weak against sour damage, but the whole point of sour is it's meant to boost your stun abilities. That's what I've got from it when I've used it. It's got 5.5 damage, that's more than a Spicy Cortana. It's got a hell of a lot more stun, it's one of the best in the game. It's an end game literally weapon for a reason, it's one of the most powerful. So yes, it may be difficult to actually get hold of, as that boss fight in Molduk Castle really isn't an easy challenge. But it might be worth having a bit of pain and going for it a bit earlier than you imagine just to get hold of this. The only thing I really wish was they made it absolutely essential and made it into a pack saw. I'm still hoping Grounded might add something like that in the future where it could do damage to rocks as well as grass. But yes, you'll be swapping out your regular termite axe for this, no doubt. But of course, I think it's natural. A lot of you guys haven't managed to finish the game yet or nowhere close, and so the Spicy Cortana and of course the Mint Mace are always going to be two of the weapons ahead. But when it comes to maybe doing another vote or poll like this with all the boss weapons, do think about this. Go and try it out in creative mode, upgrade it and see how good it is. Okay, so I may have had a bit of a spoiler there in telling you that the Mint Mace and the Spicy Cortana were going to be next. Number 2 is the Mint Mace. 26% of the vote, in fact, you guys voted it as being one of the best two-handed weapons. It absolutely makes a mockery of most creatures with the huge amount of damage it does and the amount of stun. There's no doubt about it though, the speed of it is what lets this one down. But it's still a massively powerful weapon and you can get it relatively mid-game. Back in the olden times, you used to be able to craft one with just literally some mint pieces, but nowadays you've got to go and get 3 different parts of the recipe for it. The picnic table chip, the sandbox chip and the black ant chip to go ahead and craft everything you need. It's definitely one that's going to be a firm favourite. Even against creatures that are resistant to fresh, the mint mace really still can pack a punch. And while I don't want to sit here disagreeing with you guys, the community who voted it, I've got to say, I think a lot of you guys still haven't managed to hit the upper yard proper. Because you'll realise that exploring and running around, you're going to come across so many creatures that are weak against fresh. Obviously the infected creatures are all weak against fresh as well. But this is one of the go-to weapons to start exploring all the new areas added in the 1.0 update. With such a big, massive increase of ladybirds and ladybird larvae in the upper yard, it's definitely something you want to have on you as you explore. At one time it was the absolute GOAT of the weapons in Grounded. Certainly I feel since some others have come along, like the Sour Battle Axe and the good old favourite which is going to be number 1 in a second, it maybe has lost a bit of its appeal, but I still think it's worth having, especially for the new areas. Just make sure you're using a good armour set that's going to give you plenty of stam so you can get plenty of swings in. It just absolutely obliterates all of the fire ants. But number 1 yet again, absolutely dominating most of these kinds of weapon charts, is the Spicy Cortana. 58% of you guys, that's over 6,500 voted as this the number 1 two-handed weapon. Be interesting to see if I allow boss weapons where this one stacks up in the future, but no doubt about it, again, it is a beast of a weapon, and because it is so beastly, that's maybe why the devs have made it harder to get hold of. But if you're taking out all weavers, there is absolutely no better weapon for just slicing, dicing and absolutely obliterating them. All you needed in the past was just some sizzle defense to go and pull it out of the rocks. But the devs changed and added a minigame where you're attacked by a whole bunch of ladybird larvae, making it one of the toughest challenges in Grounded now. And as said, I can see why. They really want this weapon for you to really work for it now, since it's still so powerful. What's surprising of course though is for some people it's got the same stats as the great antlion sword, so why is it so much better? With that spicy augmentation, it's always just been something that gives you that little bit extra, and especially against some of the toughest creatures like the All-Weavers and of course the Broodmother, which is its main use. Craft one of these and you'll be taking out that big, massive, terrifying spider in no time. It is absolutely the goated weapon for taking it on. As you can see from my 100 days, it was the weapon that I upgraded to the max first. So sure, the antlion sword can be great for all the other elements if you want to make loads of them of course, but if you're going down the spicy route, make sure you get this and you upgrade this one. Ultimately, it's the coolest looking weapon in the game without compare. The effects in it are great, it's just a real challenge to get now and it's still massively OP. So there you go, that's the top 5 two-handed weapons in Grounded that you can have with Mele. Let me know if there's one that you really feel should have been there. As always, I go by your suggestions in the community tab and then I put them through to the vote. So look out for the next one, and until next time, ratbags, laters.